Hello, Big Brother hometowns. I'm not sure if this is the last time we will do this. I don't know. I'm going out in the town for a bachelorette party tonight, so we'll see what time I decide to wake up tomorrow to do things. I'm hoping I'll be back tomorrow to kind of recap the season, recap our finalists, but don't count on it. So this might be the last time we do this. But wow, what a season it has been. This season, and I know production has been, we definitely, range in how we feel about this season. I personally think this is a top tier season for me, but again, I have very different tastes than the rest of production. I think this season is top tier. I think season 14 is top tier. 13 is top tier. Really, just the latest seasons have really been delivering. I think 16 has some really good elements as well. Really, the last couple seasons have been really great, and maybe that's recency bias, but this season is definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Oop, I said it. But we're going to here to talk about the last couple of days, because when you think this game, you know the direction it's going in, you don't. So I'm super excited to recap it all and kind of look forward to what will be happening in about 36 hours when we crown a fucking winner. And I'm joined by an icon, a legend. He's here in heels with his, probably not his wine glass, it's too early for that, but it's somewhere in the house from season 14. It's Javert.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. I was going to pour a glass of wine, but honestly, my therapist said I don't need it. So here I am with a bottle of water.
You heard it here first, folks. But yeah, everyone watching, drink water. It's good for you. Even though sometimes it tastes nasty depending on what brand you get.
For real.
Yeah,
And for the
like,
record, oh my gosh.
nasty.
And for the record, I love this season as well. Amazing. It is so good, unpredictable. You never know what you're going to get.
Like, and I get why some people are a little bit lower on it, just because like the emotions have been high. They have been, and there's like a threshold where it crosses over that line where it becomes like, all right, it's too much. It's too goddamn much. I look at something like BBH12. I look like The Real Show with The Real Show 15, The Real Show 19. Like sometimes it just boils over to that point where you're like, all right, this is no longer fun. Like they're just angry and unhappy and everyone is miserable in there, and I can feel that as a viewer. Here it's like the drama is, it's all gameplay. They're all pissed at each other because of the game that's being played, the decisions that are being made, and it's not personal, and that's why I'm so high on this season. Everyone's playing a really fucking great job. Like, there's only a few times where I think there were like massive blunders, which just goes to show that every player has been really taking in the whole game before they make a decision, making the right moves. This season has just been really strong, and I'm really high on it, and I look forward to kind of taking an extended break from BBH. Spoiler alert, we're taking an extended break. And kind of like thinking about the season in relation to the other seasons and maybe coming out with the season ranking sometime soon. But that's after the fact. We're here to talk about days 24 and 25 in the BBH17 house. And wowza. Where we left off, we had who did we have? Oh, that's right. We sent out Shelby 3-0 at the top 6 where we left off. Hannah basically selling out Kevin and Shelby at the top 6 when Nikki won power, leading to their nominations, also due to the fact that they're just bigger challenge threats than Hannah. Steph comes away with a very clutch win in the war veto, leading to the nomination staying the same. And Lauren and Steph locked down the eviction pretty early on. Hannah's vote was inconsequential, but ultimately Shelby evicted 3-0 as we enter in to the top 5, which this top 5 is so dynamic.
Yeah.
It's stacked. I honestly could not outside of Nikki, who seems to be the front runner. But again, even with her, and we've said it before, are the people who were angry with her and felt like she, had some stumbles in the middle part of the game are still in the game and have
Mhm.
recently gone to jury. And they have not had the ability to talk with others, talk about how they felt in the moment. So, like, that side of the story has yet to be heard from people. I think most people are over that. But that side of the story has yet to be told. So unsure if that will waver anybody. But right now, I think Nikki for sure is the front runner of these five. But the other four, it's anyone's game. Like, it really
Mhm.
is. Like, there are
Yeah.
people who are high and low on each and every one of them. And if they can snipe Nikki before the end, I don't know who's winning. I don't. And that makes this so fun to watch as a viewer, because any move that someone makes here at the end is justifiable, but also like is unreasonable at the same time, which is so
Yeah.
fun. And the emotions get high for it.
Yeah. And oh my
But
gosh, Nikki and Steph, HOH Queen and Veto Goddess, like coming through like towards the end portions of the game as their previous allies get picked off. They really, it's very reminiscent of BB13 when Jeff got evicted at the live night, and
mhm.
Rachel and Jordan had to kind of like step up and win some competitions to get themselves to the final four. It's very reminiscent of that, except Steph and Nikki are winning the competition.
It, um, sorry. Um, yeah, but honestly, and it might be weird to say it, but honestly, I think the best thing, it might be the best move of the game, is the plot twist forming, even though it did not work for its initial creation. That was the alliance of Megs, Lauren, Steph, and Nikki. Although its creation did not lead to the immediate result that they were wanting, which was a win at Live Night to then, take out someone like Hannah or Shelby or Kevin. Obviously, Shelby wins at Live Night and takes a shot at Megs.
Hmm.
The trio of gals that remain have won every competition since. And I don't know where, and we'll get to it, I don't know where Lauren and Steph ultimately see themselves tonight coming into the top four round. But it's a high possibility that all three of them are the final three at the end of this. And the competition prowess between all three of them is so impressive, and they might dictate, how this end game really transforms. So
Hmm.
it goes to show you people, Big Brother's about comps at the end. Not say that you shouldn't play Big Brother if you're not good at comps, because we've had winners who don't win a lot and they get to the end on their own, like social and strategic abilities, and get there and win. But you got to be good at comps if you want to have a good shot at winning. So
Oh,
think about that before you apply to Big Brother. Think about that before if you're not like the best at challenges, go play Survivor. Um, just saying, like, you can't be dog shit. You just can't be dog shit.
and I
Um,
actually had an analogy about Shelvana making that
uh,
move against Megs. It's like if you've ever seen a movie where this person finds like a genie in a bottle, or like they get these seven wishes, but like with each wish comes some type of consequence that like you don't know until you make the wish. Like it's all
mhm.
clear, like you get your wish, you get Megs out, but like you don't see what's on the other side of the wish, like you don't see the punishment. And it's unfortunate that like they they reached the light at the end of the tunnel. They were able to fulfill what they wanted by getting Megs out, but like they weren't able to see what was on the other side, which is like
No,
all of them inadvertently like following her because of the wish that they made. Um,
truly.
it's quite unfortunate because they've been
Like,
like such dynamic characters, but
it is wild because literally a few days ago, I could have easily have seen them as the final three. I easily
yeah.
could have seen Shelvana as the final three, as, it seemed as though Megs and Lauren were primed and ready to take shots at Nikki and Steph, and vice versa. And they just overplayed their hand coming into Live Night. They overplayed it, and they got caught, and that's what formed plot twists, and this game was forever changed because of it. And yeah, I mean, I would never have predicted this end game to go the way it did a few days ago, but that's the beauty of the game, that it can change. And yeah, they got their wish, but at what cost? Because
Yeah.
we could see all three of them joining back to back to back in sixth or fourth, but we'll see. We'll see. Unsure. It comes down to the veto today and how people feel. I'll have to, maybe I'll message them right now and see if I can get the tea on what they're thinking, because I don't know. Um, let me just send it over to all of them and see what we get back in return. So, coming into day 24, we have our top 5 head of household competition entitled Memory Match, and it's not even close. Lauren smokes the competition. She seems to be doing this a lot lately when she's competing. When she wins in strong fashion. Like, she's given very, it is her niche. It is very Ryan R.T. Taylor. Like, it's not just a win. She's beaten them real bad. She won by over almost 2 minutes. And her time was 3 minutes. Like, her time was just over 3 minutes, and she beat second place by almost 2 minutes. Like, it was not even close. But Lauren seems to be manifesting her route to the end. A lot of people had doubts about her. Not us, but people in the game were like, she's not as active. Megs is carrying her. You know, if Megs goes, she's a lost puppy. But she has been holding her weight just on her own, and she sees a path to the end for her. She said she wanted to win the final 5 head of household, to nominate Hannah and Kevin, ideally get rid of Hannah there, and then ideally be the sole vote to evict at 4 to eliminate Nikki. Obviously, that second part won't come true, but she sees her end path, and that's what she wants to follow, and she at least follows, step 1 of 3, or maybe step 1 of 4. Step 1 was win the final 5 head of household. And she sticks by her word to nominate Hannah and Kevin. And again, we've had a lot of discourse in the VL, in our prod chats, as to like, what is the right move for her? And there's been a lot of opinions as to who Lauren should target. Should she have targeted Steph and Nikki, who are better better at challenges? Or should she target, the 2 people who aren't with her? Like, Steph and Nikki are promising her top 3, are promising, the world. So should she stick with plot twist and, keep people around who are good at challenges and would keep their word to her? Or should she try and flip the script and give her a better chance of just winning her way to the end? So, like, I see both ways. And I think either way, again, is justifiable, but also is unreasonable, which is what makes this end game so interesting. Is like, honestly, I think either side is fine, but also consequences to both sides. What are your thoughts on her nominations here at 5?
I would just say, if I had won Final 5 HOH, I would have done the exact same thing that she did, for the main reason of, Shavana threw first, like, they drew first sword. They put up her and Meg. So, like, in reality, granted, these other 2 are big threats. Like, they were also the same big threats when you all had the power and could have put them up at Final 7. Like, it's not my responsibility to then do it when we could have, like, knocked them off, or at least one of them, at the Final 7. Like, you all have shown to me that if you're given another opportunity, let's say I get rid of Nikki, what's stopping you 2 from getting rid of me at 4? Because she only has one shot. If she gets rid of Nikki, she only has the veto to, like, potentially get her there. And I think that putting up Hannah and Kevin, kind of like, in my mind, the way that things have played out, she's guaranteed Final 3. I can be eating my words if, like, Kevin or Steph evict her here. But I think that with this setup, she at least gets the opportunity to compete in the Final 3, as opposed to, like, having to deal with Hannah and Kevin. And let's say for some reason Nikki stayed and she won Final 4 HOH. Now it's Lauren versus Hannah and Kevin if Steph goes at 5. Obviously, she could not have predicted that Steph will win the veto and Nikki would stay on the block at Final 5. But, like, these are all things that would be running through my mind before that happened.
Yeah, there's just so much, and it's weird because typically I always say here at the end game you should know what you want to do. You should have your path you created, and it seems like she has her path created. Um, and she knew she wanted to put up Hannah and Kevin and send Hannah out, but there was a, and I don't see this very often in games like Big Brother when you're at the final five. Like there was actually a lot to consider here because of the dynamic final five that we had, where she's basically, she's now the fifth wheel. You've got Hannah and Kevin, who are a duo who will absolutely take each other to the end. You have Nikki and Steph, who, at least, from Lauren's perspective, are promising to take each other to the end. And then you have her kind of on the outs. She's got one duo promising her the world, but gives her, a harder run for her money if she sticks with them to the final three. She knows she has to win the final HOH, but she's up against harder competition. Versus if she sticks with the duo that's easier to beat, they've proven that loyalty means nothing outside of themselves. So even if she was to, give them a favor here at 5 and put up Nikki and Steph, do they even honor anything back at 4? Do they even win at 4? Do they even help her to do anything at 4? So there's a lot. It's damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I don't think Lauren, they were going to be a flaw with whatever she decided, but also pros with whatever she decided. So I respect whatever decision she made because I think either way she was making a decent decision. So I'm still out on it. I don't know what I would have decided.
Did she have in her mind that she wasn't going to put up Nikki because Nikki had just saved her with the HOH?
She more so was focused on just getting to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, her plan at that point was wanting to win the final 4 veto, getting rid of Nikki, getting herself to 3, was her focus. Even if she couldn't evict Nikki at 4, her focus is getting to final 3 and winning the final head of household. And she's like, I just want to get there. And her biggest concern was that Hannah has openly said to her that loyalty's out the door at this point. That Hannah's been burned so many times in this game that she's playing for herself. And when you're playing for yourself, it means you're not playing for anyone else, and you're not going to honor anything anyone's ever done to you. So Lauren's like, you're not with me. Even if I help you here, I have no faith that you're going to help me at 4. And she's feeling more confident that if she keeps Lauren or she keeps Nikki and Steph safe at 5, that they will honor it back at 4 and at least give Lauren the opportunity to fight at 3. Mm-hmm. Obviously, she would backstab Nikki at 4 if she could.
Right.
So she'd backstab if she could, but she felt better about going into 4 with Nikki and Steph, with the possibility that if she didn't win the final 4 veto, that she'd have at least a better probability of being saved. And I get that, because the worst case scenario for Lauren here at 4 is if whoever stayed between Kevin and Hannah, if that person was to then win HOH, then she's in big danger, because then she absolutely has to win the veto, because Steph and Nikki will take each other to 3 and she's getting ousted at 4. But if that's the worst case scenario, that's not a bad, based on how challenges have been performing, that's not something that she really had to worry about. But if she backstabs Nikki and Steph here at 5, it's highly likely the one that remains probably wins the final 4 HOH and then can just put Lauren on the block. And if they win the veto as well, ensure that Hannah or Kevin gets the sole vote to evict, and they're definitely going to keep each other, which sends Lauren out at 4. So I think the odds were higher that she'd get ousted at 4 if she backstabs Nikki and Steph here. But again, she has a better chance of just winning out at that point. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I go back and forth.
Well, and Lauren's position here is interesting because hey boo, you would think that looking at the game, if Lauren thinks there are 2 final 2s stacked with her in the final 5, she could throw the final 5 and give herself 2 chances to compete in the final 4. But what I'm appreciative about Lauren is that she kind of wants to pave her own way. She wants to win that final 5, declare a side, and go from there. And I'm actually very appreciative, because it's not the most obvious thing when you're stuck with two duos. But like the fact that she's willing to take that initiative to put something else on her resume, I think is really impressive. And if she gets to the final two, this moment could be a game defining move for her.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've gotten the tea on what would happen tonight. So when we get there, I have the tea now. So when we get to nominations, Lauren's nominating Hannah and Kevin and basically letting them know for the first time in this game that she knows what they did. She's like, I know what y'all did at Live Night. Like, y'all pushed us. Y'all pushed for me and Lauren, or me and Megs, to be the nominations, and we know. And for that, I'm going to nominate y'all. Nikki and Steph stuck by me throughout the past couple of rounds when you backstabbed the wall, and for that, I'm going to put you up. Hannah and Kevin are not happy. Hannah, they both are pushing Nikki and Steph because hello. And again, it's funny that Lauren, Nikki, and Steph just voted. And it's funny because they just voted Shelby out for the sole reason that Shelby is better at comps. So Hannah and Kevin are sitting there being like, did you not just vote Shelby out because she is good at comps? So now here you are at 5, not going to nominate 2 people who you think are good at comps. Like, if your reasoning at the end game to send Shelby out was because of competitions, but now here you are not putting up 2 comp threats, they're a little kerfuffled. They're a little confused. And obviously, they're not seeing the fact that Lauren is loyal to that side for right now and is thinking about her likelihood of making it to the end. But they're both very upset. Like, emotions are high right now. Like, Kevin's pretty pissed because he did not spearhead that at all. He sat back and did not push Megs and Lauren as the Live Night targets. Was he tethered to the people who did? Absolutely, and that's the price you pay when you're tethered to people and they do.
A casualty of war is still a casualty.
And I've been in that similar position as well. When you get the blunt, and you get like the actions go towards you for things you did not do, and you're like, what the fuck? I didn't do any of this, but it's your ally who did it. And guess what? An attack at an ally is still an attack against the side that did something. So Kevin is facing the consequences of Shelby and Hannah, and he's upset. And he feels a little backstab, especially because Kevin and Lauren had a fake final 2 for a hot min. So whatever. But Hannah is most upset. Hannah, while yes, she pushed for Lauren and Megs to be the Live Night targets, has never once said she wanted Lauren to go ever. Hannah has always pushed for Nikki, Steph, and Megs to be the people who were going home starting at 7. She's never once said that Lauren should go. And she feels upset by that. She's like, and again, she's focusing on the semantics of it all. She's like, yes, did I say I wanted Megs and you up on the block? Absolutely. But I never once said I wanted you to go home. And you should not want payback against me because I never once threw your name out there. But Lauren's a very loyal hoe. Lauren wanted to ride to the end with Megs. And an attack on Megs is an attack on her. So, like, the sword cuts both ways. And Lauren's just not having anything, of it. She's like, cool, I respect that y'all don't agree with my decision, but I'm putting you up. A lot of heated words were exchanged, some yelling, some main chat buffoonery of both Kevin and Hannah going, this cast and the stupid like actions in the main chat, like runs to the kitchen, runs to do this. We have more of that today with Hannah and Kevin basically making snide remarks in the main chat about them being up, basically being like, wow, putting up the 2 comp threats, good work, real great job. Like, the house is feisty right now. Like, we're at the end, they can taste it, and they're not afraid to tell people how they feel about people's moves at this point. Like, the niceties are gone.
So then how do they feel about Shelby's move to break up the group at the final 7? Did they acknowledge that was a mistake, Kevin and Hannah?
They don't necessarily think it was a mistake, because they know that they put their foots in their mouths. They had to do it at that point. But looking back, I think in hindsight, they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't have done that. but obviously they also don't know that if they had thrown it to had Megs won, Megs was not going to honor the wall. Megs at that point was going to go after them. So they truly don't know how much that day really ran around them. But they definitely, like, in their confessionals are like, yeah, in hindsight, that this sucks. Like, we're biting the bullet for what happened at Live Night because they're not winning anything. It comes on the fact that they're just not winning anything. But they don't know that had they not won Live Night, they're thinking, oh yeah, if Megs had won the HOH, she would have targeted Steph and Nikki like we asked. No, she wouldn't have. So in their mind, they're like, hindsight's 2020. Yeah, it was a bad move, but they don't really understand that actually them winning at Live Night was the better outcome for them.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't know that, but they definitely can feel that things were misconstrued and they should have been better about communicating, probably with Lauren specifically, about, hey, we're turning on Megs, but we're not turning on you. But still, I don't think that would have changed anything because Lauren was very loyal to Megs and she feels very hurt that they were turned on like that.
And honestly, this is kind of where Stephanie's, like, I know that a few of us have talked about, like, Stephanie's, like, view on the game being very straight and narrow, and I think that people kind of get that vibe from her, and well, they should at this point. And if you keep somebody like Stephanie safe, granted, she could possibly turn on Lauren here. Stephanie's, out of everybody left, is the most likely to kind of like do what she says she's gonna do, at least.
Yeah.
So if you show somebody like Stephanie some favor, you're probably gonna get that same favor back in the near future, at least. And I'm pretty sure, or at least I would like to think, that was also kind of like a component of what was running through Lauren's mind.
Yep, a lot going on, but ultimately at the end of the day, at least the end of day 24, Lauren wants Hannah to go, but has not expressed that vocally yet. Has kept that to herself because ultimately Lauren knows that she likely is not getting a vote here at 5. She likely knows that she wants at least Hannah or Kevin to go. Her preference is for Hannah, but obviously if one of the noms win the veto, then whoever remains on the block is going home. And if they stay the same, Nikki and Steph are voting together. So Lauren knows she's not really getting a vote here, truly. So I think, one, it comes down to the fact that Hannah has vocally said, I'm playing for me. And that doesn't give Lauren any reassurance that if she was to take out Kevin, does that mean Hannah would then, who is Hannah bringing to the final 2 at that point?
Right.
Who is Hannah bringing? And I think there's doubts about that. If with Kevin staying, I think Lauren has a little bit more comfortability that Kevin would consider Lauren as someone he would want to bring further into the game. So I think from Lauren's perspective, one, Kevin has a higher likelihood of bringing her further into the game, especially because of how people handled the nominations. Kevin was upset, but did not lash out at her. Hannah let her have it. Hannah let her have it. And I'm not saying Hannah was, I don't think what Hannah said to Lauren was incorrect because, again, 2 sides of the same coin. Nikki and Steph are really strong competitors. And if Lauren is evicted in this season because she lost a competition to Steph or Nikki, Hannah's going to let her have it. And been like, bitch, I told you. And we'll sit here and be like, yeah, like, that was the consequence you took. And we don't know how that's going to play out yet because all 3 of them have won a multitude of competitions against one another. So I don't know who would, win a final competition between the 3 of them. I don't fucking know. It's anyone's fucking guess. But Hannah let her have it. Voices were raised. Lauren did not like the conversation that was being had. And Lauren just feels like Hannah is the least likely of those 2 to want to work with her moving forward. So that's who Lauren would like to go home. Nikki and Steph are on the other side. They want Kevin to go. They think he's more likable and more capable in challenges than Hannah is. And ultimately, if they want to be the final 3, the absolute worst case scenario is whoever remains to win the final 4 out of household. They feel pretty confident they can beat either of them in the final 4 veto, which, yes. But it ultimately comes down to the final 4 HOH. It's just the tea of the matter. I have not seen notes from Hannah or Kevin I have seen the notes on the other side. Just saying, based on what I see, I don't think Hannah or Kevin stood a chance in the Final Four veto. But the Final Four HOH, they both stood a chance. It's what the bleep. It truly is, it benefits people who are actively in the main chat. And Hannah's very much in there a lot. Hannah could have been very strong at this. I don't know. So plot twist is kind of divided, even though they don't really know that because Lauren hasn't expressed her opinion yet. But that's where we stand coming into day 25. In day 25, Steph wins the Tuzzle veto. Once again, I don't even know how many veto wins this is at this point for Steph. It's a lot of veto wins. It might be her 4th or her 5th veto win. She's eaten the hose up.
Yeah,
she's eaten the hose
girl
up.
can compete.
And it's weird because no one was, as much as people were talking about Griffin and Lamont being the threats, people were just really downplaying Steph's ability. People, it has taken until the end game for people to be like, yeah, Steph's a competitor. I'm like, where have you been all season? She has won a lot of competitions. It is not just here at the end game. She has won a lot throughout the season. And it's weird that people have just constantly dismissed her. But again, it's been because she's been a loyal, truthful, honest person. And in this side-v-side warfare, they wanted to keep her in because they could at least get the truth from her. And no one was looking at her for her comp threat ability. They were like, she's an honest person in this game amongst a shit ton of liars, and we need that in the game for our sanity. So work. But yeah, no one was looking at her as a comp threat, and I'm like, all right, people, because she can win her way to the end, as can Nikki, as can Lauren, and here they all are. Now officially in the Final Four because Steph immediately is not using the veto. And now Steph and Nikki have a decision to make. They hop on call and Nikki's like, hey, do you remember what Lamont said? That, Hannah beats everyone but Megs. Megs is gone. And now Hannah is Hannah the front runner? And obviously they're like, we shouldn't just trust anything Lamont says, but hey, he's a voter. He's one vote, and if that means that's one vote guaranteed for Hannah, that's something for us to consider. And ultimately, the conversation is around they feel better. Basically, they feel better that they can beat Hannah in a challenge. So in the Final Four HOH, the most crucial HOH for plot twists and ensuring them in the Final Three, they feel better about beating Hannah and ensuring that they are the Final Three. However, they feel like any of them can beat Kevin in the Final Two. And that's what they're debating on. And ultimately, it seems like they land on that they would rather just have a plot twist winner than necessarily them in the Final Three, and that would take precedent. So ultimately, they decide that keeping Kevin is better for their game. Lauren expresses her opinion that she'd want Kevin to stay, and it seems like all three of them kind of rally around the fact that Hannah is a harder person to beat at the end if she somehow gets there. And the worry that she wins the Final Four head of household out of nowhere is something weighing on their mind. So I think these are some interesting reads. I don't necessarily believe that Kevin is the easier beat at Final Two. As of right now, I think that would be Hannah. But again, I said this in the Discord. I think Kevin's here. Doesn't have much really to work with at a final jury questioning. Super likable. Everyone loves him. He's up here. But doesn't have much to truly say. His game is pretty well known. He played the likable card. He played between sides. He did not win much, so he doesn't have a lot of things to say. The Shelvana alliance has been exposed. He doesn't have much room to go. Versus Hannah, when Kevin's up here, Hannah is somewhere in here. People are really low on her because of how she's acted at certain points in this game. But she has a lot of, things to her credit. She had people on the other side during the side-v-side warfare that wanted to work with her, which kept her safe at live night. She has played up her bad challenge ability to move her forward. She has been a force that is creating divisions and creating moves. She has more to say. And while people are kind of low on her, she has room to change that and outplace Kevin, but also she could it might not resonate and she might stay worse than Kevin. Kevin's likable, but Hannah's polarizing. And that's why I think Kevin's just the harder person to beat because he's always going to be well liked and well beloved by the cast. So I think this was a misread by them, but again, I don't know. This jury is changing by the day.
And I mean, even with their logic, in my opinion, it makes more sense to get rid of Kevin here because if they're using a logic that Hannah beats them and like we're gonna keep Kevin, it kind of incentivizes, and we'll get to it. K Powell's update clip notes. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
incentivizes potentially keeping Kevin a little bit further.
Yeah,
Let's get rid of Kevin now so that we know in our hearts that, obviously they don't know what the jury is saying, but Hannah's a threat. So if she can't win and she's a threat, we know that we're gonna cut her. But
yeah,
if we keep
exactly.
Kevin, we might want to keep Kevin a little bit further.
Now you have a little bit of dissension within plot twist, which is what I alluded to kind of at the beginning of this, where I'm like, I don't know where they stand at the final four because you have someone like Kevin who they all think is an easy beat. They think he's the goat of the people that remain. So that then creates the idea in the back of their head, like, do I want to honor this final three deal I've made with them when Kevin's right there? So here we go. But ultimately, the vote flips on Hannah. And Hannah does not. Hannah goes out with a bang. Hannah, again, emotions are high. They've played this game for 26 true days because of day 0. This is the end of day 26 for them. Technically day 25, but like 26 full days. They have played this for almost 4 weeks, and to be kind of told, I'm voting you out, and like basically being told like minutes before they have to vote, hey, I'm voting you out, like I'm not going to give you like a huge chance to fight for yourself, like it can hurt. And Hannah kind of pops off at Steph and basically says, you're a fool if you bring Nikki any further. Nikki has my vote. Like there's nothing you can try and say here or a jury questioning. Like I will give her my vote hands down. There's no question. And you're making a really stupid decision here. Then calls Nikki, a little nicer to Nikki, but basically said, you have my vote, Nikki, unless you're at the end with Kevin, because then you're never getting my vote against Kevin. But just basically like, how, the bit, not bitter juror, but like the angry juror thing is like, well, I have a vote. And guess what? You're not getting it. Like, just the classic thing to like your last ditch effort to threaten something to hope maybe you can stay. And it doesn't work. She gets evicted 2-0. But yeah, again, some high emotions, and it left Steph not feeling super great again. Like every player has had this moment in the house where another cast member has basically told them, like, not like actually told them you're shit, but like has alluded to the fact that like your game is shit. And I would personally not vote for it. Shelby has had that with Lamont. Steph is having that with Hannah. Lauren had that with Hannah the day prior. Like everyone in this game. I mean, Kevin is feeling so defeated at this point. He's feeling like a perpetual pawn who has no power in this game and is not like getting any moves. So like everyone is feeling up and down about I mean, Nikki obviously has received a lot of, feelings towards her at some point in this game about people being very angry with her. So like they're all feeling down about themselves in some element and respect coming into the final four. But like what a game for Hannah. And to see it flip so quickly. Literally when the veto was won, I was like, well, this might be Kevin's swan song, but then literally in a matter of 30 minutes, truly like a 5-minute conversation, the vote flips and it's on Hannah. Again, another reason I love this season. Like, couldn't have predicted that.
Classic Nikki and Nikki fashion this season. Gaslighting people into thinking something different.
Truly, she came into that call and completely flipped the script, which I'm not sure what she wanted because she was telling us that she was leaning towards Kevin hours before the veto was won, and then she hops in that call and it seemed like she had made up her mind that she was thinking maybe Hannah should go. So I love it. Okay, cool. They're talking about stupid shit, but an amazing game for Hannah. An amazing game.
She played really well.
So, queen in my heart. She still remained my flair. I don't care. My preseason winner pick coming up. Just a couple comps short. Needed a comp win to pull one out, and who knows where she goes from there. We end the night with a what the bleep HOH, which again, these competitions lately have been, for the most part, very close. Like War was really close. No Vacancy was super close. Anything You Can Do was super close. This one also very close with Nikki pulls out the victory, I believe, 9-8 to 8 out of 11. So like they did very well. Like they like typically people like I think season 16 there was a tie at like 6 or 7. Like was not 9 and 8. I'll tell you that much. Like this cast knew their fellow competitors and like good on them. But Nikki wins the What the Bleep HOH. She's guaranteed. She's a lock for the final 3. Her nominations will come shortly. They're irrelevant. They're going to be Lauren and Kevin. To no one's shock, Nikki is trying to keep Steph in her good graces because Nikki's ultimate goal here is if I'm in the final 3 with Steph and she wins, I need her to take me. Because Nikki knows that's the only person who's going to take her besides herself. So she's trying to increase her odds of being at the end by, buttering up Steph because Steph has promised it. And Steph's a loyal bitch. And Nikki wants to make sure she doesn't piss off Steph in any shape, way, or form. And which then gives Steph a reason to go back on it. Because Steph's a loyal bitch, but she's a semantic hoe. She'll be like, I was loyal to you, but you did this, which burned me, which means I no longer owe you anything. I know her. So, and Nikki is being smart and going to, play it cool, calm, and not do anything and risk anything with Steph. So she's putting up Kevin and Lauren. Not like the nominations mean anything because it ultimately comes down to the veto anyway.
Yeah.
But we'll get into K-Pal's Cliff Notes as to kind of our end game scenarios here. Right now, if Nikki was to win the veto, she's not 100% sure, but she's feeling 99.99% sure she would keep Steph as the sole vote to evict because she wants to keep Steph in her good graces. But she wants to push for Steph to evict Lauren and backstab, plot twist, and keep Kevin into the final 3. Which interesting. Like I get why. I get why Nikki wants that because based off of comp track record, Nikki or Steph should win the final HOH, which would then guarantee that Nikki and Steph would be the final 2 and give Nikki a chance to fight for herself at the end. So I completely get why I see Nikki wanting to do that. But I'm not so sure Steph's going to do that. Steph has told us that she's not 100% sure, but she's leaning towards evicting Kevin. She's basically how she's saying it is she knows that Lauren should go, but loyalty's a bitch. Loyalty is a bitch for her, and that's the problem with this is the consequences of her actions because she has played such an honest and loyal game. It has worked for her. She was not the target of the side-by-side warfare. She talked herself off the block at 7. Was it 7? No, at 8. When Lauren was at HOH, she talked herself off the block. She's like, "I'm an honest hoe, and here I am promising you something if you don't put me up." And she was going to honor it. But here's the flip side of it: if you play this honesty, loyalty, and integrity game all season, then you backstab someone at the final 4, how does that make everyone else feel who you voted out because you were playing rigid? It's like, well, you flipped on Lauren. Why couldn't you have flipped for my favor? Why couldn't you? So now it seems personal because now it becomes personal versus if she is honest all the way through, she can be like, I told you how I play. You chose to be against me, and that's why I voted you out. Period.
On the flip side of that, though, getting rid of Lauren is the best move for Nikki. It's not necessarily the best move for Steph because Steph, they both taking Steph if Steph gets there.
Taking Steph.
And
they're both taking Steph.
Yeah, and if I'm Steph, I'm looking at this like, if Nikki comes to me with the attempt to keep Kevin, I'm like, okay, are you gonna win and cut me for 3 to take Kevin to the end since we kept Kevin because we thought that he was the easiest beat? No, I think Kevin should go here. And I think that, oh gosh, I really hope that Steph uses this to keep Lauren because it solidifies her spot in
she'll be
the finale.
She'll be a lock. She will be a lock for the final 2 because we all know that Lauren wants Nikki gone. Lauren knows Nikki is the front runner. Steph, I think, knows it too, but I think Steph is living in a world where that's what the jury thinks right now, but it all comes down to jury questioning. So, it doesn't matter. Let me plead my case. And Steph is confident in her story. Nikki is worried. Nikki is very worried about a final jury question. I'm not sure if
Mm.
it's like the pressure of it. I'm not sure if it's like the lack of predictability. I don't know, but she's in her prod chat being like, I am worried for jury questioning. Like, I just, it freaks me out. So again, you could have a BBH12 moment where Lizzie is confident in her game and it's just, she's like, here's how I played. And then Amanda is rattled because of the events that happened over the past 35, 40 minutes. And she came in prepared to talk against Destiny, takes Lizzie and isn't prepared to basically say why she should beat Lizzie. And it comes across as unconfident and she gets rattled. Confidence is everything. And if you can't sell someone your story, why should anyone buy it? So, as much as we're saying Nikki's the front runner, if she's up against Steph, I don't know. It's not a done deal.
But
If Steph can sell it.
And that should be another reason why she should want to keep Lauren. Because, I mean, realistically, if you're like this diehard loyal person and you think that Nikki could be the front runner with this third HOH, if you don't want to cut her, get somebody who can cut her. Not necessarily somebody who will, because Kevin and Lauren both will. But Lauren is battle tested in these competitions. She can cut Nikki if given the opportunity. So, I mean, if you don't want to do your own dirty work, keep somebody who will.
Who will do it, exactly. Which could be dangerous because if Lauren cuts Nikki, that could be the game-winning move. But well, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, so you have Nikki who wants to keep Steph in her good graces, but wants to convince Steph to vote out Lauren because it's best for Nikki. Steph's not 100% sure, but wants to evict Kevin. But again, I don't think Steph has fully realized that keeping Lauren is a lock for her to be in the final two. She doesn't know that yet because Lauren has not told Steph that. But once, if Steph was to win the veto today, or Nikki was, and Steph was the sole vote, I think Lauren would then tell her, like, hey, I want Nikki gone. Like, you bring me to the end, Nikki's keeping you, I'd bring you, and if you win, you're bringing yourself. So I think once that comes out, I think Steph will be locked in on voting out Kevin. And so it brings us to Kevin. If Kevin is to win the veto, which, hey, anything is possible. This is not it's a difficult trivia challenge, but if you just guess, you got a 1 in 4 chance. If you don't know the answer, just click something. And maybe, just maybe, Kevin can come out. But based off of what I've seen in the notes, it's not likely for Kevin. But if Kevin was to win, he would take Steph out. Again, knowing that Lauren is going to cut Nikki. If Kevin wins and brings himself to 3, I think he might be a lock for the final 2 at that point. Because I don't think Nikki would bring Lauren, because Nikki has no ownership to Lauren. Obviously, she's trying to get Steph to get rid of her. So if Kevin's to win, I think he's now a lock for the final 2. And he's going to take out Steph to eliminate the duo of Steph and Nikki. And then we get to Lauren, if she was to win, would get rid of Kevin. She ultimately is saying that she doesn't want to play like a villain. She's trying to stay truthful to how she has played throughout the season. She was going to stay truthful to Megs, even though everyone was telling her left and right, can't beat her. She was never going to turn on Meg. She would have gone to the end with her. And I think she's trying, like, Steph and Nikki are now her new Megs, and she's not going to turn on them. At least not turn on Steph. She's actually going to turn on Nikki. I'm not sure if she would have changed her mind with that same reasoning as well. Obviously, Nikki's off the table, but she's saying that she can't do it right here. She'd go to the end with plot twist. So that's basic. So literally, all 3 possibilities are still possible come today. You got Kevin wanting Steph out, Lauren's wanting Kevin out. Steph's not 100%, but is leaning towards Kevin, but Nikki is fully pressed to convince her to get rid of Lauren. So anything can happen today, which, in the words of BBH17, are we shocked? Are we shocked that we don't know what's going to happen today? Like, come on now. As a self-proclaimed hero, please vote out the people you think will beat you. As a self-proclaimed villain, please also do that. That's the way I play. That's the way I love people being, all hunky-dory and loving each other, but, you got to win. You got to win.
I mean, as a villain, I also play that way. But there are some exceptions where it's like, so Big Brother, because there's only two power positions each week, HOH and Veto. Big Brother is definitely more of like a moving chessboard than Survivor, in my opinion, in the sense of like you get rid of the person who you think will beat you, i.e., Shelby getting rid of Megs, and then you find yourself the next person to go home.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's
Yeah,
it's it's definitely it's
it's a
very
hard game.
tricky. Yeah, it's
It-
very tricky.
It's a
But
hard game to maneuver. It really is.
yeah, but I mean, I think that like you hit the nail on the head, which I had never heard before. Like, if you can sell it, people are more willing to buy it. And I've, as somebody who's been in situations where like the jury didn't come in necessarily thinking that I played the best game, but like I sold my game and I was able to win. I think that like if you have confidence in what you could do, because realistically, all four of these people could sell something and win, then like, you know, don't worry too much about the person you I mean literally look at Kevin from first nominee to like final four. If he gets
Yeah,
to the end, what the
I'm not.
hell
I'm
amazing story that is.
Yeah, the BBH historians of it all. I'll refer to Josh and Mitchell whenever they watch this. I don't know if a first nominee has made it this far
Yeah,
because
that's really
the first nominee that survives is always usually inactive. It's why they're on the block, and typically they don't make it this far. But Kevin has completely fucking rebounded from such a rough day one start and has really made the most of his opportunity. Like I did not think we'd be seeing Kevin this far, but really has turned it on, and I'm impressed by everyone who played this season because they all played 100%. You know, balls to the wall. Never took the foot off the pedal. Never gave up until they were evicted from the house, and that is what I'm looking for.
very
Um,
refreshing to see.
so great, but yeah, ultimately, and it's something that I've learned. I learned this from Tyler Poirier, who I played Padlock with. But I think he's on Power Prod whenever Power comes back at some point, maybe I don't know. Um, but he is the juror who, while he might have an opinion as to whose game is better, he lives in the world of if you do not understand your game as a player and you cannot sell it to me, I have no interest in voting for you. It does not matter if
Mhm.
you played the best game. If you don't understand that you played the best game and you don't understand how to sell it to me, I'm not voting for you. And I feel like that is like kind of the juror that I've become. It's like, I think you played the best game, but if you can't sell me why you did, and it's self awareness that is the key. If you can't tell me why you know you played the best game, why should I vote for you? Why should I
Yeah,
vote for you? So as much as Niki's the front runner, Steph knows the game she played, and Steph's ready to own it. Nikki knows the game she played. I just worry about the confidence level for her because she's stressing me out. And I'm like, girl, get it together. Like everyone sees you as the front runner. Believe it for yourself. Go out there and show them why you're the fucking front runner. Go and win. And it's hard
yeah,
because also Nikki has gone to the end of multiple games, or at least her most recent game, and has lost. And you saw it with Shelby this season. She was so guarded and blinded by that moment that she felt like
hmm,
she had to play a different
double.
way.
Hmm.
And I think Niki's the same way. Why she chose to be a waffling quiet hoe in the middle of the game and screwed people over is because for it was XTC. They told her like you just didn't make the moves that you should have, and you just weren't ruthless. You played with your friends, and so this time she was like, no, I'm gonna play for me. I'm gonna prioritize me, and she did it in a way that pissed people off. But again, she was
But she
blinded by
did it.
XTC, but she did it. So I'm hoping she can believe it and sell it because I'd love for Nikki to, much like Elise winning their first game here, I'd love for it to be Nikki. I'd love for it to be Nikki. I don't know if Lauren's won a game, but would love for it to be Lauren. No offense to Steph. She's won multiple. She's won a lot of games, but would love for Steph to win because she's been such a loyal follower of the series. Kevin has yet to win a game. Would love for it to be Kevin's first win. I'm rooting
Hmm.
for all four of them, and it sucks. It sucks only one of them can win, but I'm
Yeah,
excited.
it sucks that the season has come to an end. Amazing, amazing final, amazing jury, honestly.
Amazing Final Four, amazing jury. It's going to be a highly contested battle. So, like, just reminder to everyone. So, at today, literally in an hour, from 12:45 to 1:45 Eastern, we'll be going live to host the Final Four Power of Veto, and then they'll get like 15 minutes to go discuss, and then we'll come back and evict fourth place, and then we will run part one and part two at some point. We'll run part ones probably at some point later today, maybe tomorrow morning. Part two will be probably sometime in the afternoon tomorrow. And then obviously tomorrow at 9 o'clock Eastern, we'll go live to do part three, crown our final HOH, send our last juror to the jury, and the final two will plead their case as to why they should win Big Brother Hometown 17 and the $200 to the charity of their choice. So that's what you have to look forward to. So at least try and tune in at 12:45. I know we got work, we got shit to do, but if you can, 12:45 to 1:45, at least for the first part, at least for the veto, try and tune in for the veto comp, and then but especially tune in tomorrow at 9 o'clock when we crown a fucking winner. Oh, perfect! And we have officially landed on a jury roundtable time. We have a jury roundtable tonight. Oh, we eat good tonight. I was waiting for the official. We have the jury roundtable at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight, where we'll see if the fourth placer will join tonight. But at least 7 jurors will be there to talk about who of the final 3 should win. So that will also be some great fucking content. So you're eating good, you're eating great. So don't say we didn't feed you. But for Jabbar, for me, maybe for the last time, I don't know. We'll see what time I wake up tomorrow and want to debrief on the final 3. I feel like we did a decent job of it today, but maybe I'll join tomorrow and talk about the final 3. I don't know. We'll see. Don't quote me. But for me, for Jabbar, see you all in an hour. We're peacing on out. We'll catch you in the Discord. I better see you on stream in an hour. Want to see the comments.